What's up, everybody? Welcome to Are You Down with LPT, the podcast where agents like you share their stories, experiences, and insights to help each other level up and thrive. In every episode, we're diving deep into the real-life challenges, wins, and lessons from the front lines. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, this is the place to connect, learn, and grow together. So, if you're ready to get down with LPT and take your game to the next level, let's jump in. Welcome back to Are You Down with LPT? Today, I've got Sean Carpenter. And Sean, I don't know how long we've known each other, but Sean has been in the real estate industry for 28 years, recognized as one of Inman's 100 most influential people. And we're lucky to have you this week here, with our company. So, Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can chat kind of about what you're chatting about with us this week.
Sure, Colin. Melissa, thank you for having me in. I'm excited to always come back to Iowa.
Yeah.
The hashtag Iowa nice.
Yeah, that's right.
I always appreciate whether I'm on the east side of the state or the west side of the state or in the center here in Des Moines. Always good to be here. As you said, 28 years in the business. I've done it all. I've been an agent. I was a branch manager for a couple of years. I loved the coaching and training part of the job. I hated the managing part of the job. So I was lucky enough that I was able to become the director of education with our company in Columbus and Cincinnati. And I did that for 12 years. And during that time frame, I started speaking a little bit more and then speaking a lot more, and really just speaking kind of within my company umbrella, as well as some stuff at the state of Ohio and the Columbus Realtors.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision in 2016 to retire from that role. My kids had neared the end of their high school and were heading off to college, so I didn't really need to be at home a lot, and so I left the paycheck, left the benefits, went back to being an agent, and opened up my own company called Sean Speaks, where I've been doing that since 2016. So I'm a kind of a three-legged stool. I sell, I speak, and I coach about 80 of our top agents in Columbus and Cincinnati.
Yeah. So with Cole Banker there, you guys got several offices over in...
Yeah, we have 8 offices in Columbus and 7 offices in Cincinnati. So about, between the two metros, about 2,000 agents.
Yeah, wow. That's a big operation over there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I should make a point that the agents that I coach, it kind of came out of COVID, and our company coach had retired, and so our president came to me and said, "Hey, I need to be able to, provide value to my top agents." And so, I sort of, while I didn't mind doing it, I wanted to make sure he knew that, all these top agents are selling more than I do.
Yeah.
Now that's because I don't 100% sell. I sell and I speak, but I think, all the agents, they recognize where I was coming from. They knew I was the director of education. They knew I had this national reach, and I think they all I call it Carp Consulting. I use my nickname, and it's not coaching, it's Carp Consulting. Because, Cal, as you know, the top agents, they don't need to be reminded to make phone calls and call their past clients. They just need some creative ideas. They need some guidance. They need to sort of have the guardrails put up when they start drifting off the reservation a little bit. Yeah. And I think, it's just a way of sort of just inspiring them, to do what they need to do to be successful.
Yeah, and that accountability, I've been in coaching for, 10 years, and that accountability piece also matters. Like, get tips and things there, but somebody that's going to kick your butt or, encourage you when you need it. And I think that helps.
I think, to be honest, probably most of them are accountable the night before. Oh crap, I got to meet with Sean tomorrow. I better get focused. But what's funny is then when we meet and I talk about their pipeline, they really realize they got like 10 or 12 more things that are that close to coming into contract or to listing, and so it's kind of good for them to every once in a while just sort of clear the desk off and just focus on, all right, what are the names I need to pay attention to in the next 30 days that's going to get me a closing in the next 60 to 90 days.
I did a little coaching and training. I was the director of education with Coldwell here locally for 3 years. My dad always told me, he said, those that can't do, teach. You think that's true? No, I'm just kidding.
I hate that.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, it's kind of like buyers are liars. I hate that statement as well, because I think that's a disservice to our industry to say buyers are liars and sellers are worse. But it's just something I've always been passionate about.
Yeah.
I go back to my high school days and then my college days where I was really active in my fraternity, and I became a leader in the fraternity. As a pledge chairman and social chairman 5 or 6 times, and president, and I've always just been in that leadership position. And so, sort of be that person in the front of the room was a natural fit for me.
Yeah, obviously relationships. I mean, you've got your tagline. You can chime that in anytime you want, but relationships are a huge part of your business. Oftentimes I'll see social media, you travel a lot, so you're connecting with somebody on the airplane or the airport, or, maybe it's golf and whatever it might be. Known for relationships, but you're a golfer, you're a sports fan.
how intentional are you about using, the interests and things you do to deepen connections?
100% intentional.
Yeah.
I think, I talk all the time about your brand is more than your brand. And I think, your agents and your associates here, they're with Legacy and they're also with LPT, but that's not where their brand ends. They're
right.
also realtors. They're also Iowans, right? They're also from Des Moines or Ankeny or Clive. So that's part of their brand, but that's not where their brand ends. See, for me, I'm also a Florida Gator, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my brand. And that's important because when people see the Florida Gators scroll across the bottom of the screen on ESPN, if for a split second they think of me,
Yep.
that means I just jumped in the top of their mind.
And I do.
And
I do.
Yeah, and I see, and I do for you when I see an Iowa State victory.
Yeah.
We text each other quite often during sports seasons. But my brand is also golf. My brand is also craft beer. My brand is also Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. And so people say to me, they say, Sean, what does Tom Petty have to do with selling real estate? I'll tell you what it has to do with selling real estate. If Lissa is driving home tonight and all of a sudden Running Down a Dream or American Girl or Free Fallin' comes on the radio, the first person that's going to pop into her brain is Sean Carpenter.
Does she know those though? Do you know that?
She knows
stuff?
Free Fallin'. It's on the classic radio station.
She doesn't know Are You Down with OPP? So
that's right. She's pretty hip. But so your brand, your sports is part of my brand.
Yeah.
And craft beer is part of my brand, and music's part of my brand. And so I love having other opportunities to talk with people about something other than real estate.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make in our business is they feel like they always have to talk about real estate. Well, I'm a realtor, so I have to talk about real estate. I'm going to my kid's softball game tonight. I got to talk about real estate. I'm going to church this weekend. I got to talk about real estate.
Yep.
I think that's the last thing you should talk about. You should talk about life and listen for opportunities to have other reasons to follow up with these people. And then when the real estate need comes up, if you're the name they think of, then by being a natural relationship builder, you've stepped to the front of the line.
My son's sports teams, we were the Ankeny Magic in baseball and basketball, and really from first grade up through junior high. And I can go back and I can look at those between the two and through the years. There's probably 20, 25 families, and I sold most of them, at least one house, if not multiple. And so it's kind of like, hey, wherever you're at, whatever you're interested in, you'll build relationships there, right?
Yeah, one of our top agents, that's one of my huge mentors back in Columbus. His father was in the business. He was in the business. His son's now one of our top 5 agents as a kind of father-son team. And he was very active and engaged with his local small communities fire department. He had a fire scanner. He would go to every fire and help the firefighters with towels and water. And he wasn't a firefighter himself. He just kind of had a passion for it. I can almost guarantee you that every single firefighter in Newark, Ohio, has used Pat Quansel as their real estate agent. Yeah. In fact, when I was at Andrew's wedding, his best man stood up and gave a toast, and he said, well, I'd like to welcome all of Andrew's friends and also the fire department of Newark, Ohio, because that's half the audience, right?
Yeah.
And so once again, he really niched down and found that person, just like you're doing with the baseball team. But you're not going there with your logo on and passing out business cards. You're just being a good dude who shows up for his kids' ball games. And people want to do business with people they like. But I think it's also important to remember, people want to do business with people like them. Mm. They want to do business with someone from their church, someone from their fraternity, someone from their state. Think about if you went to Japan, or if you went to Russia right now, or if you went to London, you would gravitate towards someone wearing an Iowa shirt quicker than someone that wasn't, right? Whether it's an Iowa Hawkeyes or an Iowa State Cyclones, you'd still at least say we have something in common. Hey, you're from Iowa, I'm from Iowa. Yeah. And that's something to remember. So think about who your audience is, and then go through all those circles of, I'm a mom, mountain climber, I'm a cancer survivor, I'm a military veteran, a grandparent, and that becomes part of your niche.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I know you preach that, you preach relationships, and one of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow is Gimme 6, which is a new class that you've taught a few times now, and you're going through with our group. So let's chat a minute about that. So I'd love for people, get to know you, but as we listen to this, have some takeaways. Most agents think they stay in touch, but if we're honest, they're really not as consistent as they believe. This Gimme 6, I have 6 ways to stay in front of people. So maybe just talk us through the framework behind that.
Yeah, I think we've got to find ways to stay in touch with people, but if it's always the same method, I think people start tuning it out, right? If the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, right? And so the 6 channels are things that everyone who's listening to this, everyone in the sound of my voice right now, can touch all 6 of these channels, whether you're a new agent or experienced agent, whether you're a male or female, young or old, doesn't matter. The 6 channels, and I'll just run through them, and then we can maybe talk about each of them and how they are different for each person, because we're all going to default to maybe 1 or 2 that we just feel comfortable with, but they all work. So we got face-to-face.
Yep.
That's the ultimate. We have all the channels are hopefully leading to a face-to-face. Yep. And in real estate, that would be a listing appointment or a buyer counseling session, but as we'll talk in a second, that could be any face-to-face appointment. Then there's voice-to-voice, good old-fashioned telephone calls from my end of the line to your end of the line. There's screen-to-screen, which is texting, going from my screen to your screen. There's inbox, which is email. There's mailbox, which is good old-fashioned handwritten note, a postcard, a flyer, a brochure, a market report, ending up in their U.S. mailbox. And then there's social media. And if you think about those, Kyle, there's no reason why everyone couldn't touch all 6 of those channels every day.
Yep. All right, so let's jump back to face-to-face. What does it actually mean to be face-to-face in today's world?
Face-to-face is being in the room with somebody, right? Now, once again, a listing appointment or buyer counseling session is kind of our ultimate goal in real estate. We'd like to get those. But let's be honest, there's even the best of the best agents go through days, sometimes weeks, where they don't have a listing appointment or buyer counseling session. But if you can be active in your kids' schools, if you can be talking to people at the gym, if you can have conversations with your neighbors, if you can have conversations at your charities that you work in, or the other things you do, your country club, your barbershop, your hair salon, face-to-face gives you an opportunity to be emotional with people, to see their emotions, to feel their emotions, to listen for things that they may bring up that's going to bring up a change in their life, right? Every real estate deal in residential real estate happens because of a problem, if you think about this.
Yeah.
It's a good problem. We're having a baby. I got a new job. We're getting married. It could be a bad problem, death, divorce, downsizing, foreclosure. But nobody in the history of real estate ever just sat around and had a glass of wine with their spouse and said, what do you want to do tomorrow, honey? I don't know, you want to put our house on the market? No one does that. Yeah. They do it for a reason. And so listening for those changes, right? We're having a conversation with you at the grocery store. We're having a conversation with Alyssa at the back of the church. And she mentions, that her brother is graduating from college this year. Well, that's one more person potentially out of the house. That's one more person who might be starting a professional career here in Des Moines, who maybe wants to get his first condo, or maybe he's moving in with his girlfriend, or maybe he's moving away and needs to get a referral to Dallas or Austin or Atlanta. And so just listening for those things. So face-to-face is an opportunity for us to talk to people. And then the old-fashioned, it's very cliche. We'll talk about it tomorrow, but there's Ford, right? The family, occupation, recreation, dreams. If you don't know what to talk about people's families, right? Their kids, their grandkids, their parents, their siblings. Talk about their occupation, their specific job or their industry. Talk about their recreation, what do they do for fun, and talk about their dreams, right? Retirement, grandkids, new jobs, what it might be. And there's a new one I picked up because sometimes the Ford gets run out and you're not sure what else to talk about. A friend of mine in Vancouver, Canada, his name's Michael Montgomery. He's a real estate trainer. And he talks about the Heffe technique, like a Hefeweizen beer, right? H-E-F-E. And it's hobbies, environment, food, and entertainment. So after you talk about family, occupation, recreation, dreams, I can talk about your hobbies, pickleball, and all the things you're doing. And I kind of saw on Facebook, you're flying a drone these days. And how long have you been doing that, right? Yeah. Environment might be obviously the weather, but it could also be things that mean something to the people here in Des Moines and Ankeny and Clive and these different areas of the city. Hey, I saw they're putting a new traffic circle in by your school. How's that going right now? Or are they detouring, environment? What's going on with the traffic and the new mall and the new shops and the new stores? Entertainment is a fun one, right? We can talk about what are you watching on Netflix these days? Hey, have you watched the new show on Apple TV? What's on your Spotify playlist right now? And then obviously, food is an easy one. That could be food. That could be craft beer. That could be wine stores. Could be wineries. Or
Busch Light.
There you go.
Topics we maybe should stay away from when we're talking.
Barntown Brewing.
All right, face-to-face. Like, I think that's the end goal, that face-to-face. I think that's, I don't want to say it's the easiest, but it is probably the most important of them all. I mean,
it's where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
So I think you've picked your destination. We're trying to get to our vacation home in Florida. Well, then I see my road map to get there, but eventually I got to be good when I get face to face.
Yeah.
Because I don't know an agent in this industry that's listed a lot of houses or sold a lot of houses and never been face to face with someone.
Yeah. They haven't. Hasn't happened. Okay, voice to voice.
Voice to voice is old school.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's probably a lot of people looking at Alyssa over there. she may not realize that inside an iPhone is a phone.
You can actually call.
Right? You can actually call someone and talk to them on the other side. And full disclosure, it's probably the one I'm the worst at.
Yeah.
Because I don't like being called myself.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes it's, we get so many possible spam calls and things like that. So there's got to be a reason to call. And we've got reasons, birthdays, anniversaries, I was in your neighborhood.
Would that include videos? Because what's one thing you're really good at? You do a lot of videos. I've received videos. Yeah,
my
for
video
sure.
text is kind of a way of me doing three things. It's a way of me doing face-to-face, through screen to screen, but I'm going through the phone to do it. So, I think a lot of people just think of how many times we're going from one place to the next. And it almost is more of a reason why we should make more phone calls, because it's only going to be a 1 or 2 minute phone call. And when you can, here's a little trick, Kyle.
With some,
I just rode with you from the airport and we had a long call. Yeah. But listen, when you can sometimes end a call before you start a call. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If I call you up and I say, hey, Kyle, it's Carp. What's going on? Hey, I just have a couple quick minutes. I'm on my way to a meeting at the Board of Realtors.
Good.
You have a second for me? I've just told you it's going to be a short phone call because I said I'm a couple minutes away from my destination. So sometimes you're ending a call before you start up versus, hey, I just got on the road to Iowa City. I got a couple hours. You got a second to talk? Yeah. People are probably going to be less likely to just chat with you. So, but voice to voice should be maybe the step we use to say, let's get together and discuss your situation.
Yeah.
Want to meet up and have a cold beer and talk about your timelines. Hey, we should get together and talk about your opportunities in front of you.
Yeah. I don't love talking on the phone, but it's part of this business and we need to, pick up the phone time to time and have that conversation. Okay. So next one was screen to screen, kind of alluded to that a little bit, even with the last one, but
yeah, screen to screen is an important one. Think about this on your phone, and I'm grabbing my phone here. You guys can't see me grab my phone that you're listening, but when you look at your text messages on your phone, right, you only have a small amount of real estate that's above the fold. You have about 6 spaces for above the fold. And once that 7th text message comes in, it pushes that last name down off the screen, right? And so when you're not there on the screen, you're not in my top of mind. But if I asked you to scroll to the very bottom of your text messages, go all the way to the bottom, it's probably 1,000 text messages ago. It's probably last year, maybe even longer than that ago. If whoever that is, could be a lender from a deal 4 years ago, could be a client, could be a friend you haven't talked to in years. But if you text that person right now, where do you instantly end up on their phone?
Right at the top.
Right at the top. Right at the top. And top of screen is top of mind. And so we as agents, that's kind of our second most important thing we should do every day is earn top of mind awareness. The number one is earn trust. If we can earn trust every day, we have a good chance of when we become top of mind.
I like the exercise. Just scroll to the bottom every day and say, okay, I've talked to this person.
Move that person up.
Yeah, right. That's a good exercise
and
right there.
It's funny. I'll share a quick story if I can.
Yeah,
I was speaking in Gainesville, Florida this year, where I went to school at University of Florida. So it's kind of cool for me to be able to finally get invited back to speak to the Alachua Gainesville Association of Realtors. And I told you I was a Tom Petty fan and we were talking about this. And this older lady comes up to me afterwards and she said, Mr. Carpenter, that was just a great presentation, but I got to show you something on my phone. You told us to scroll to the bottom of our phone. And so I did. I want to show you the name that was at the bottom of my phone. It was Ben Montench, the piano player for the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Oh. And I go, why is Ben Montench in your phone? And she goes, he's one of my clients. But he's the longest text message I sent. And I was like, man, that's so cool. Like, it would have been amazing if it was Tom Petty. And I was like, wow, that's even cooler. But I just thought that was so neat that there was a connection between being a Tom Petty fan. And then she looked at that text message and realized, like, oh my God, he was one of my clients. And he was just a guy from Gainesville. I didn't really think he was that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of neat. So when you can do that, and even if you went down 50, 60, 70 text messages, but those text messages are quick and they can be super simple. And here's what I know. Text messages have a 100% open rate. Text message. Now, there's probably agents listening going like, right?
Yeah,
Sean,
I see a lot of blue.
Some of my showing time requests haven't been open. And I get that. They leave them in their phones so they're not missed.
Yeah.
But text messages get opened. And what we're trying to get is a blue-gray conversation going. If I look at your screen and it's just blue, it's kind of like you saying like, hello, Bueller.
Right there.
Bueller. What you want is a conversation between both sides.
Yeah. Good. Okay, we go to the next one, mailbox, old school mail.
Listen, this is my favorite. I think there's no better feeling than when you get home at the end of the day and you check your mailbox. If there's 5 things, 6 things, 10 things in there, and one's a handwritten note. Yeah. That's the first thing you're going to open up every day.
That's how I got my wife. Letters, old school letters.
Yeah. And that's how I've got tons of my business. A lot of my real estate friends around the country have gotten handwritten notes from me. And, it's just something I'm passionate about, but it doesn't, I very rarely ever send a branded Coldwell Banker card because I want it to come from Sean Carpenter. I don't want it to be from the real estate agent known as Sean Carpenter. I wanted, the only time I'd maybe send that would be if it was to an open house guest to kind of remind them, hey, you probably looked at 4 open houses this week, and I was the guy from Coldwell Banker at this house. But I just love the handwritten notes. Now, mailbox you can also send market reports. You can send informational things. You can really take social media, email, and mailbox and almost do like a 3-way test and say, all right, I'm going to take these 5 things to do to get your home ready for spring, and I'm going to make it into a social post. Right, I'm going to go on Notebook LM and make like an infographic that I can post on Instagram or Facebook. I'm going to take those same ideas and print it out and trifold it in people's mailboxes, and I'm going to send it out to 50 people in email. And do it to 50, 50, and 50 people and see if you get any responses. And then maybe next month or in the fall, the people that got the email might get the mailbox piece. The people who got the mailbox piece might get specifically mentioned on social. So I think it's just a great way to get in front of people and once again, cut through the clutter. And if you can stand out and be unique and different. So maybe that means instead of sending a business size postcard, you send something bigger. You send something round. You send something colorful. You send something that's got things inside of it, just to make people excited. Because most people, when they read a handwritten note, Kyle, they're going to open it. They're going to read it. They're going to read it a second time.
Yeah, and they may keep it for
and
a
then
while.
They're going to leave it on the counter so their spouse or partner can see it. There's some people listening to this, like me, who have a box of handwritten notes that when I get a special one, I keep it in that box. And every once in a while on a rainy day or when I'm not feeling good about myself or just, lost a deal or whatever, I just dig through that and am reminded of all those personal moments that people reached out to me for.
Yeah, it's good. In that mailbox part, I think I skipped email.
Yeah.
Email's
inbox.
To that. Yeah.
Inbox is, I think sometimes we don't think about email, but I would guess a majority of people in the world check their email on their phone. Right. So let me ask you a question. What's the difference between me sending you an email versus me sending you a text? It's just black words on a white screen. But here's the difference. It shows up in a different place in your mind. When you go to check your email, you check this box. When you go to check your text message, you check this box. So you're going to a different place in the store, so to speak. It's like you're going to the bakery or you're going to the vegetable section. You're going to a different place in the mental store that's in your hand. And so if I can send you an email, all of a sudden your name's going to show up in a different place in their brain. And this is also something people have to think about. A lot of times people read an email on their phone, but they don't respond to it until they get to their desktop or laptop, which means it sits in their inbox. And if it sits in their inbox for a couple of days and they keep meaning to get back to you, they're seeing your name over and over and over again, right? Until they have time or the need, or they maybe save it in a folder. And so once again, all you're doing is the whole philosophy behind this 6 channels, Kyle, is that so people say, God, I see Kyle everywhere. They really don't. But they saw you in their mailbox. They saw you in their inbox last week. They saw your sign in the yard when they drove to their kid's ball game. They see you on social media talking about the Cyclones. They see, maybe they got a phone call from you on their birthday 3 months ago. But all of a sudden they say, God, I see Kyle everywhere. Because they're seeing you across all these different channels. And the perception is, I see you everywhere. We see Coke and Pepsi and Sprite and Apple and McDonald's and Applebee's. We see it everywhere, but we heard a jingle on the radio. Yeah. We drove past their billboard, their sign. We saw them in in Friday Night Lights episode, right? And the perception is, let's grab a bite to eat. Let's go to Applebee's, right? Or whatever it is. It's just all we're trying to do is show up top of mind. Yeah. And with how many agents are in the greater Des Moines area?
Ooh, 2,500, 3,000. I'd say 3,000.
So here's the sad fact is every single person listening to me right now, every one of your clients, every one of your past clients, every one of your sphere of influence, they all know 5 realtors in your town. So just as you're driving your car or on your treadmill right now, say, gosh, what am I going to do to make sure that those people in my audience know me the day they wake up and need real estate help? Or better yet, someone in their family, their neighbor, their coworker says, hey, I need to sell my house. Who would you use? And if you're top of mind, you're going to win that game every time.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes in. And then the last one's social, right? Social media is one that I think a lot of us default to. And once again, the purpose of social media is not necessarily to sell real estate. It's to be seen, to be known, to be social, to talk about who you are, what you're doing, where you live. Love where you live, is a great little slogan a lot of agents around the country use. And I think that's, you got so many cool things to offer here in the greater Des Moines area, whether it's outdoor activities, whether it's breweries, whether it's, schools and education, whether it's, science, golf courses, just pick your lane or pick multiple lanes and show up in these places. Do you have to dance on TikTok? No, but that's one way you could do it and become known.
Do you?
I don't. No.
Not yet.
I think I have a TikTok. I don't think I've ever sent out a tick.
Yeah.
Or is it a talk? I'm not sure. Is it a
either one. It depends if you're dancing or not. But yeah.
But I think once again, and here's the other thing, and we'll talk about this on Tuesday. So those of you that maybe weren't there and you should have been there.
Mm.
The philosophy of SWAP. SWAP stands for scroll with a purpose. I think too often we get sort of stuck like, oh, cool, I got 20 minutes waiting for my kid to come out of school. I'm just going to start scrolling through videos on Instagram. And it turns from social media into interest media. You're going to start, if you're watching politics, you're going to start seeing lots of political videos. If you're watching golden retrievers, you're going to start seeing lots of golden retriever videos. If you're watching golf instruction, you're going to see lots of golf instruction. So interest media is replacing social media. But if you scroll with a purpose, so if you say, I got 20 minutes before my kid comes out of school and I'm sitting in the pickup line and I'm going to scroll with a purpose and I'm going to look for 4 or 5 people that I know that are talking about a highlight in their life. They're talking about a trip they're taking. They're talking about maybe their grandma that passed away or something bad that happened in their life. I could be the 40th person to put a heart on it or put a like on it, or I could be the first person to call that person and say, hey, I was just seeing that your dog passed away. And I'm so sorry to hear that. Or how about this one, Kyle? Someone gets a dog and they put a picture of their puppy on it. And 45, 50, 150 people like it. And 400 people say, oh, how cute. What if you're the one person that scrolled with a purpose, saw that, and instead of being the 451st person to like it, you went to their house and dropped off a box of milk bones with a handwritten note that says, welcome to the family, right? Think of how you just jumped the line.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe some of those people take a picture of that little puppy laying down next to the box of milk bones and say, guess what my realtor did for me yesterday?
Yeah. Purpose. Right? I like
that.
So
scroll with a purpose. And all of a sudden, what we're going to do is we're going to take the online offline. Instead of just being another comment, we're going to take the online offline with a phone call, with a video text message, with a handwritten note. Congratulations on your son getting into grad school at Nebraska. Super excited. Just that little extra touch that someone says, wow, Sean Carpenter doesn't just talk about this. He does this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it makes people really stand out and say, that's who I'd call.
Yeah. Well, if our agents were there Tuesday, they will probably want to listen to this again. But if they weren't, they certainly, this is a podcast that they can take a lot away from. So appreciate that. I want to hit a few quick hits for you, but here, real important
Love
stuff.
lightning rounds. Let's go.
Yeah, lightning round here. Cyclones or Hawkeyes?
When in Rome, Cyclones.
Yeah, okay, all right. Just making sure. Gators football or Gators basketball?
Gators football.
Is that because they haven't won as recent as Gator, or it's always been Gators football?
I think in Gainesville, football runs the city. And so football has to be good. That's why I'm really excited about Coach John Summerall. I like what he's bringing in. He reminds me a little bit of Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
The passion, the enthusiasm, the confidence he has in himself. Not so much in his players, but he's putting it on himself that they're going to be good. And our fan base got pretty spoiled with a guy named Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer. And, you win 3 national championships and some Heisman trophies. And all of a sudden these Kyle, let me just point out, when I was a student there, when we made the NIT, we ran through the streets, right? We had kids that had a 3-year run where they had 2 football championships, 2 basketball championships, and a baseball championship. And they started thinking like Titletown is it's kind of like Alabama fans, right? Yeah. And so Gator football, but I love watching Gator basketball because there's just what Todd Golden's building there is pretty cool.
Something pretty special.
Yeah.
Golf, early morning tee time or late afternoon round?
First tee time of the day. Yeah. We play early morning.
Is it because you want to play fast?
I want to play fast. There is no excuse for slow golf.
Yeah. You don't want that weekend 5-hour round.
You can play bad fast.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
You can play bad fast, but early tee times, because then my day's done. Now, it was great when my kids were learning how to play golf and working their way up, because I would play in the mornings with my brother. And about the 17th or 18th hole, my wife would text me and say, the kids want to play this afternoon. I'm going to drop them off at the course. Yeah. I got to play 36.
Yeah.
So,
not a bad day. Yeah. Craft beer or Busch Light?
Craft beer.
Yeah. I didn't know. In Rome, I didn't know what you were going to go with. Yeah.
You got some great craft beers here in your state.
Yeah. You walking the course or riding the course?
I'm a walker.
You're a walker? Yeah. Well, that's good. Appreciate it. People want to get to know you a little bit. Gators fan, avid golfer. I don't know if Alyssa's fiance, what's his handicap? I think he's plus. Yeah, scratch.
He's a scratch golfer?
Yeah.
Wow.
What's your handicap at these days?
I'm a 9.
A 9.
I don't practice at all.
Yeah.
Practice. We're talking about practice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about mine. So anyway,
But I'm really proud. My son is a golf pro now. He works at Oakmont Country Club in
Oh, wow.
Pennsylvania, where the U.S. Open was last year. And
Is he really?
yeah,
Wow.
he went to Mississippi State and graduated with a professional golf management degree. So he's a member.
He's got any on there?
Yeah. Not yet. He just started. So hopefully someday soon. Yeah, that'll be a great wish. But listen, Kyle, this has been fun. And I had a great time with your agents. I'm saying this in advance, but I'm sure we're going to have a great time on Tuesday. And hopefully people reach out to me and say connect with me through social media.
Yeah, how do we do that?
So at Sean Carp on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. But what I'm really passionate about is my blog. I've been blogging at carpscorner.net. I blog every Sunday night, so it comes in your mailbox on Monday morning. I'll be sharing the QR code with the attendees. If you weren't at the event, make sure you talk to Kyle or listen, get the link to my blog. But carpscorner.net, Kyle, the next blog post I write next week that comes out a week from today as we're recording this will be number 1,354. I've been blogging for 20 years. I haven't missed a Monday in over 14 years. So it's consistency is really important for me. Yeah. And my blog is about building relationships, solving problems, and having fun. It's about my philosophy. So sometimes it's about sports, sometimes it's about music, sometimes it's about real estate, sometimes it's a life lesson, or maybe it's someone I met in my travels that I sort of want to shine a spotlight on, and someone I feel is blog worthy, that I want to sort of tell their story and put them in a spotlight. And so it's just a chance for me to put my message out there that after I'm long gone, I'll have lots of information out there on the web that people will be able to find. And so people ask me, have I written a book? And I say, I've written probably 10 of them.
Yes, you have.
I just haven't put it
what topic you want.
I just haven't put it into a hard copy book.
Yeah.
So that would be my next goal, is to maybe take some of my greatest hits and write a book. So,
well, Sean, we appreciate it. Lucky to have you. This is amazing information. A lot of takeaways for our agents here. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, guys.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Are You Down with LPT? Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you get some valuable takeaways to apply to your journey. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss out. And hey, if you have your own story you'd like to share or questions you'd like to dive into, hit us up. Until next time, stay down with LPT and keep leveling up. Catch you in the next one.